prone to aging. Drinking enough water helps to flush toxins from the skin, keeps the skin moisturized, and also reduce acne. Did you know drinking water first thing in the morning fights toxins in the stomach and boosts metabolism? Many health experts say drink at least 8 glasses of water a day. This will prevent
Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. The governments of Nigeria, both at the state and federal levels, have taken some steps to address the needs of persons with disabilities. One significant step came in January 2019 with ratification of the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act 2018. Although implementation is yet to materialize. In addition, 9 states in the Federation have enacted disability laws to safeguard the rights of persons with disabilities to varying degrees of implementation. For one, persons with disabilities may experience negative attitudes at family and community levels, including name-calling, negative beliefs and misconceptions surrounding the causes of disabilities. As one woman with a physical disability in Jos puts it, quote, "Some people say the reason why I am visually impaired is because I committed a sin," end of quote. Now, these negative attitudes manifest in rejection, neglect, loss of respect, denial of identity or self-worth, and often results in low self-esteem, depression, and isolation. Now this, along with structural limitations and challenges,
legislative frameworks are believed to be crucial to ensuring the rights of people with disabilities.
After the elections, we agitated that at least one minister with a disability be appointed. We're glad to say that, okay, at least finally the president heard the current Minister for Humanitarian Affairs has smell disabilities, so he can't actually perceive odors. But beyond that, you go around the states, maybe Adamawa State that has a speaker, the amputee gentleman.
Other factors include encouraging inclusive practices in political parties, governance and education, all in the bid to helping address the social, political and economic exclusion faced by people with disabilities. Timothy Yusuf.
All right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let's introduce our guest to you. We'd like to welcome to this program Honorable Bashiru Daudu, is Chairman, House of Representatives Committee on Disability Matters. Thanks for being with us here tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Right. We're also joined in the studio by Muhammad Abba Isa, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Equal Opportunity. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right. Well, as you know, the nature of this program, at some point in time, we can go interactive, but when it's that time, we'll remind you of the process and procedure. Yes, well, we see that we're joined also by Jake Kapele, CEO, founder, TAF Africa. He joins us via Zoom. Jake, good to see you. It's been a while.
The veteran Uncle Cyril. This is what we started together. This is where we are today. Good to see you and good evening, Nigerians.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Well, so let's begin to get into the issues regarding the inclusion of people with disabilities. And, well, over the years, this has been one big conversation, ensuring that people with disabilities are included in virtually every aspect of national life. So they can get to participate and have access to basic services and things like that. But what's the position today? How much progress has the country made in that direction?
Well, the way I will look at it is that from the legislative part of it, since I'm the chairman on disability in the Federal House of Representatives, is that rights are not served a la carte. We look at it from the legislative angle. So after persistence, pressure from the community, finally, like you said earlier on, in 2018, the House or the National Assembly passed the act. So now we have the law, which was signed into law by President Buhari in 2019. And there was a moratorium of 5 years, which actually ended last year. So we look at that law. So the onus is on and that law also established the National Commission for Persons with Disability. So the onus is on the executive in conjunction with the legislature and the judiciary to make sure that there is full implementation of the law and that there is compliance. So the House has passed several motions now in terms of, compliance to the law. There's one that is on public buildings, there's one that is on employment, and so forth, and on and on. So we in the committee, the law, if we have full compliance of the law, I think it's going to go a long way, because the law talks about accessibility. Must have access to public buildings. It's the law of Nigeria that at least 5% of those who have been employed in any MDAs must be PWD. We're not really well in this direction. We're not far. We're not where we need to be. But I would say that we're on the right track in making the lives of our PWDs better. Thank you for the question.
All right. Well, we'll return to you, but let's go on to Mohammed Abba Issa, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Equal Opportunity. And straightforward, I would say, you think that PWDs have anything close to equal opportunity when it comes to services, employment, accessing basic services?
Thank you so much once again for having me. Following the adoption of the several national government organization of persons with disability, civil society organization, they have made a kind of deliberate attempt in order to see that inclusion and equal opportunity has been achieved. It's in line with the determination of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Under his wisdom, he created this office. I am presidential aide on promoting equal opportunity. Agencies of government to make sure that their policy plan and program is all inclusive, so that we create avenue of opportunity for persons with disability. You can achieve accessibility, inclusion without equal opportunity. When we say equal opportunity, is enshrined in the United Nations Convention of Rights of Persons with Disability, and Nigeria, they are signatory to it. And in order to Nigerian to align itself with the international treaty, Mr. President went further and signed Protocol of African Charter of Human and Persons with Disability Right in order to align. You can see these treaties. And if you look at these treaties, also enshrined with the Sustainable Development Goal. And under this administration, National Disability Act came into being, and National Commission for Persons with Disability was established in order to create equal opportunity. You can see how government make a kind of deliberate attempt. And upon all these things, persons with disability, they are still facing discrimination and we are lacking equal opportunity. But what we realize, there must be a kind of vertical and horizontal alignment in terms of government. For instance, now, if you look at in this legislative side, we have Dr. Basharu, who is a chairman committee of persons with disability from the lower chamber. And in the upper chamber, National Senate, we don't have it. And if you look at most of these law or treaties, the duty bearers or the people in the position of the government, they are not aware of this law. We are now in the post-monitorial age. The grace period given to the Act is 5 years now. We are now in the implementation stage. And government of the day under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu make another deliberate attempt. That is by inaugurating Implementation Management Committee in order to speedy implementation without imposing compliance. And this committee is another way that the government has made a deliberate effort. And this committee comprises of the ministry, comprise of the agencies, comprise of the legislative, compliance of organization of persons with disability, so that we have to make sure that all have to comply with the law.
All right. So the instruments are there, the implementation, the enforcement is what should be driving all of this. But let's go over to Jake. Well, Jake, as you mentioned earlier on, it's been a long walk when you, along with a few others in partnership with particularly the NTA, we started this thing about fighting for what should be the proper recognition and
dedicated to discussing disability inclusion is a milestone, you know. But all the same, we've made some appreciable progress in, and I'll speak from the lens of political participation. You know, a few years ago, the level of political participation in the electoral process in particular is not as what it is today, you know. Today, we've been able to advocate and create workable policies and framework in the electoral space. I'm a fellow of NIPR, which I'm also an honorary fellow. I have made. He's brilliant. He knows his work. He's humble. This man is humble in capital. So, you know, it's something that we need to continue to push. A lot more has to be done. Today we have inclusive legislative assembly. We do have inclusive legislative assembly. Let me say this as Cyril, as a breaking news. You know, Nigeria is going to have a side event in Global Disability Summit in Germany. Chairman is not even aware of this. Chairman, we got the approval. Chairman is not even aware of this. Chairman, we got the approval as at yesterday. The German government have approved that Nigeria, they dropped 3 African countries to take us. So we're going to have a side event. It's official, I can tell you that. Okay. I know. And so there are a lot of opportunities. Cyril, I was in Portugal 2 weeks ago. I was with the Honorable Minister, and when we made a presentation on, take for instance, inclusive migration, the work that Nigerians have done, I guarantee you, not one European country or African country saw our back. It was a huge applaud that they are now saying, wow, the world needs to learn from Nigeria. Okay. You know, and that's what I'm talking about. You know, we are not there yet, but we've taken a very long walk.
All right. Thanks a lot. We'll examine that in greater detail. But I'll just take it from the comments that you three have made. while there has been significant progress, there are also a lot of places where you need to scale up. And I like to refer to what Ahmed Abba Issa said, for instance. And he said, while in the House of Representatives, you chair a committee that is dedicated to disability matters. There is no corresponding committee in the Senate. And if we put that against what Jake is saying, in legislative inclusion, yes, many more people were able to contest, many more PWDs were able to contest. The win rate has been marginal, but that's okay. It will improve, as he believes. But the important aspect is when you begin to have dedicated committees that are going to work for the achievement of these goals. You think that the Senate would take a lead in that, but the House has.
Yes, that observation is correct, but unfortunately, it is not the current situation. The House actually, the Senate actually moved the motion, which is inclusive of setting up the committee. But for some logistic reasons, I don't think the committee is operational yet. So the Assembly is actually working in that direction. Now, to also let you know, let Nigerians know how inclusive the Assembly is now, the Speaker, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, GCON, is a very inclusive Speaker. And this is not just that, it's not by hearsay. Apart from appointing the committee and doing well by the committee, for the first time in the history of the Nigerian Parliament, we requested for the presence of sign language interpreters in the Assembly, and that's something that he approved. So if you come to our house now, your house, you will find that the sign language interpreters covering the event. I think that's a landmark development in terms of inclusiveness. 2, the Speaker also approved the general audit, accessibility audit of the National Assembly. And that report has been submitted to his desk. I think any time from now, there will be approval in terms of retrofitting the Assembly so that we can set the example in that regard. 3, all the motions that were put forward to make the lives of persons with disability better is a champion of that. And he has also appointed SSAs and staff for PWDs. So we think that we're on the right trajectory. But are we where we should be? And with you that we're not. Part of it is that the National Assembly is a reflection of the Nigerian society. So once there is no awareness, I don't even think we have a lot of folks who rather hide the PWDs in their closets, in their houses. They don't want people to even know that they have children or persons with disability. So those things have to change. But it's going to take a little time. But with the kind of commitment we have in the executive and the legislature right now, I think we're going to get there faster than we probably would some years ago. Thank you for the question.
Now, one of the areas I'm interested in would be accessibility in public buildings. It's good that Dr. Bashir Daudu here has mentioned that the House is moving forward to set to champion the cause of redesigning. And if you look at most public places, there's little or no provision for people with disability, especially for those who are on wheelchairs, access to buildings, and banks and financial institutions. I don't recall how horrible it used to be that people with disabilities would have to hang around outside bank buildings or get someone because they've all put in these revolving doors that don't take any, not considerate of people with disabilities. So again, the question of awareness, especially with institutions, public institutions, and places where all people are supposed to visit and have access, not the least transportation. So what are we doing in that regard?
Thank you so much for this question. Access plus participation is what will give you inclusion. And accessibility, achieving accessibility require a kind of multifaceted approach, if I can say that. If you look at, we have the policy, we have the plan, but still some of the building is not accessible. When we say access, the access that is, for me as a wheelchair, is different for the access that visually impaired person. We are talking of accessibility in education, inclusive education. We are talking of accessibility in terms of transportation, sea transportation, airport transportation, so that person with disability, if you look at all of them, they are not even accessible. We are talking about accessibility in communication. Communication is the sense that whereby a hearing impaired and a person that is not hearing impaired, they can learn in the same environment. And information, if you look at, is not even accessible. And if you look at visually impaired person, we are talking of digital accessibility. Is another thing, so that visually impaired person, that they will understand what is going on in the global standard. But the National Commission for Persons with Disability is tasked with the responsibility of regulating all this by liaison with the MDS and other development partner. We have all what it takes, we have the policy. But if you look at the level of the awareness is what we are lacking. As I say so, most of the duty bearers and most of the offenders now, if you look at some of the people that were discriminated or denied access to the aeroplane in the airport, when you ask them, they will say that they are not even aware whether they are receiving existing law. The law is always 5 years. But Nigeria, at least we have been even tried. If you look at American Disability Act, it's almost getting to 35 to 37 years now. But if you go to America, you will still face discrimination. But our own now is only 6 years now, we are in post-moratorial. But we need to invest in creating awareness. There is need for National Commission for Persons with Disability to collaborate with all MDS, to collaborate with the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President, to collaborate with the legislative, to collaborate with the civil society organization, to collaborate with advocacy and organization of persons with disability to create awareness. There is accessibility regulatory act domiciled in the National Commission for Persons with Disability. So that is the work of the Implementation Management Committee that the federal government set up. So we are going to collaborate with the National Commission and other relevant agencies and the task force to make sure that we create awareness. Federal Ministry of Housing, they are part of it, so that they will not going to give approval to any building without any accessible code. So we need to invest in creating awareness in regard to that. So it is a sole responsibility of the National Commission for Persons with Disability.
All right. Well, in addition to the discussion in the studio, we also have a number of reports from across the country. We'll start with this one from Lagos.
About between 15 and 20% of our population are made up of persons with disability. It would be a major disservice if that significant population of people are not carried along.
Aside stigmatization and discrimination that are mainly the plights of the physically challenged persons in the society, people with disabilities say they worry more about their social inclusion while pointing out challenges encountered during elections.
Ad hoc staff don't really know how to handle PWDs. So they're not 100% prepared.
How many PWDs do they have in the office? We have always said it, that you cannot do something for us without us being part of the process.
Although there is no accurate data about the participation of persons living with disabilities in the state, concerned individuals have attributed this to lack of awareness campaign on the side of INEC and provision of special centers to accommodate persons with disabilities.
Accessibility of the polling units, and I think it's important for INEC to work in this regard.
The Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act 2018, signed by former President Muhammadu Buhari, which provides for the full integration of persons with disabilities into the society and prohibits discrimination, is another significant step taken by the federal government towards cushioning the plight of persons with disabilities. How is this act changing the narrative, and how much impact has the glamour for their inclusion made on the political landscape?
We had several engagements with the Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission last year, which we had several training workshops to educate persons with disability as to their rights and what is expected of them in the electoral process, and to familiarize them with what the government government has made available to ensure their effective participation in the election. And we had jingles on the major radio stations in English language, Yoruba, Ogun, and Pidgin language, educating persons with disability and giving them direction as to where they need to go.
Why government at all levels continue to work towards improving the lives of this group of persons in Nigeria. The need for individuals in communities where they reside to show them love and create in them a sense of belonging, many say, is important. In Lagos, Diana Ajale.
Our next report comes from Kano.
It is a known fact that in Kano, one's contribution to the society used to be more important than any other thing, which is why the community is providing opportunity for all to grow, irrespective of his physical being. This is why the state had once produced the first visually impaired professor in person of late Professor Jibril Isaac Isu, who was able to attain that position as a result of the support received from his family and immediate community. This is in addition to giving people with special needs an inclusive participation in all government economic empowerment and job offerings with the constitution of the Disability Commission in the pipeline.
Even in my ministry, the Ministry of Women Affairs, Children and Disabled, I have even written a memo to His Excellency to be presented in the Council on the provision of a director in my ministry or to oversee the activities of people living with disability. The person that I've requested to be the director overseeing the Department of People Living with Disability should be a person from them.
Dahiru Labaran Kabo is a person with special needs, and despite his condition, he rose to a position of Director ICT in a parastatal under the State Ministry of Health.
My being here is an example. Be disabled. This will not curtail me to proceed my career to the extent that I am now a director in this agency.
For the community of people living with special needs, their challenge requires special intervention from authorities and the larger society to accord them a sense of belonging.
Political party of today, they are not looking person with disability as someone that can do something, because there is much influence of what we call in our Hausa language Ubangida.
Godfather.
That is Godfather.
They pray that the state will hasten its intention to constitute the commission in line with the disability law as signed more than 5 years ago. In Kano, Aminu Umar.
All right, haven't seen those reports. Jake, if you're with us there, I'd like to talk about the political...
Can emerge into elective position without belonging to a political party. In the electoral framework in Nigeria, there is no independent candidacy, so you have to belong to a political party. Unfortunately, our political party and structure have not been designed well enough to accommodate inclusivity. I want to say loud and clear that I am apolitical. I'm not a politician. I don't belong to any political party. But I am politically enlightened to interrogate political issues and speak to political development. And so, that said, I think the ruling party, the APC, seems to have one of the best inclusive structure in terms of inclusive political party mechanism. They do have, some very well-meaning political positions within the political party, unlike other political party. I think next in line is PDP, So internal political party structure is our Waterloo. Where a political party does not have the internal structure that is inclusive of persons with disability, and I'm talking about the internal democracy of a political party, the leadership, within the political party, the emergence of candidacy, the encouragement for the marginalized to participate, and most times, many of them are very competent, but they are not given the equal opportunity for them to emerge and represent political parties. I've seen situations where even some of them that have made effort to emerge are told to step down, and there are comments like, who will vote person with disability, So the internal party structure is our undoing. When the political party does not accommodate leadership development of persons with disability, then you will get a zero candidate participation. When the things like the form that person will buy or nomination form is at a cutthroat price, then you will get zero participation of persons with disability, because we are the poor of the poorest, And so the political party structure needs to be thoroughly interrogated, and there is a need for political parties to truly and really come out with an inclusive party constitution, inclusive leadership structure, inclusive primaries and emergence of candidates, inclusive support for persons with disability to vie for elective office, On the part of the executive, there is a need for much more appointive position for persons with disability. As far as I'm concerned, even the government of President Bola Tinubu have not met the threshold. The least is 5%. It's not 5% in holistic. It's the least being 5%. And in the government of the day, I don't think we have up to 1%, even though I believe that the president, going by his track record of compassion, wants to do something for our people, But I'm looking forward to where the SSA, that the community also, while I advocate for you, the community will also hold you responsible. But I'm looking forward for the office of SSA to be properly budgeted, and supported so that he can do the work. I'm looking forward to the Committee on Disability to be properly funded, not only by the National Assembly, but development partners and the private sector. So political participation generally it's not where we should be, definitely, because if you go by the numbers of persons that have been elected, the numbers are small compared to what we should have, But there's a need for political parties to show transparency, honesty, and commitment to political participation, because if you must grow the level of participation of persons with disability, it will start from the parties, from the political parties. And if they are not willing to open up their doors, and ensure that the persons with disability will emerge, then we will have problems. I think in the PDP, we have one of us who is in the board of trustee. I don't know of APC, but maybe they have, and several other political parties. But people like us, people like me, and several others in particular, we were going around holding political parties, presidential candidates accountable. I remember in a town hall meeting when I asked Kwankwaso to tell me how inclusive his manifestos are, and several others. I made effort to reach the current president when he was campaigning to ask him, how inclusive is your manifesto? And so on and so forth. But also going by what he said in his inaugural address, let the poor breathe. I think he was referring to our community, So generally speaking, in terms of political parties, they have not been honest, they have not been transparent, they have not been intentional, and we will continue to work with them. My organization have a number of interventions for political parties. We'll continue to work with them to ensure that they implement what the Electoral Act says in terms of political party. We'll continue to work with them to ensure the emergence of persons with disability through the political structure and leadership. We'll continue to work with them to ensure that they produce candidates that will be elected, by the people to govern. Because, Uncle Cyril, listen, we want to contribute to nation building. We have what it takes to build this nation. Who knows? Tomorrow, a person with disability can become the president of this country, and this country will thrive better than the people who doesn't have disability. Sure. God can use anybody and anyone to build a nation. And who says we cannot be the people that God will use? Who knows? The blueprint of this country can be in the hand of the rejected. Okay. Because if you go by the way God works, it is selected, rejected by men, selected by God. Okay. And who knows? We may be the one.
Okay, let's also look at other aspects for PWDs. In the health and education. In education, we say yes, there are institutions that have taken the lead in responding to the needs of PWDs. In health, how well have they also done with it? And these are all-encompassing. We know that in education, bodies like JAM are in the forefront. Making sure that PWDs are responded to in terms of that, right?
Yeah, thank you. I think that this deficiency is actually in all sectors. If you look at education, for example, in primary education, tertiary education, the issue of accessibility is still a big deal. So a lot of the schools that are being built are not accessible to children that have disabilities, and also the issue of inclusion in a lot of school areas, they are actually segregated to be in one particular area, not mixing with the general population. So, and if you look at admissions, there are only certain courses that persons with disabilities can actually participate. So I think in the education sector, we're still very far behind. In health, I would even say that compared to the education where you have the strides, the deficiency is even more. Because when you actually look around, at the primary health centers accessible? Most likely not. Because if you're deaf, you want to go and deliver a baby, there's nobody that can understand what you're saying. We have instances of deaf patients who died because of poor communication. So apart from the physical access, there's also the language barrier that's there. And of interest, there is the Vulnerable Trust Fund that was set up by President Buhari, but unfortunately it's never funded. So if that is inclusive of persons with disability, if you actually fund that, you can have health insurance for millions of persons with disability. So, and I know that I think we're hearing that there's more funding coming along now for the Ministry of Health. Our own question is that how inclusive are their policies and practices of persons with disability? If you look at even the tertiary health centers, you find that there's so much non-compliance to the law in terms of accessibility, in terms of employment, and in terms of their policies and programs, whether they're inclusive of persons with disability. Yes. So my answer is that both in the area of education and health, we're still very far behind. But the onus is on us to make a difference, just like what you were saying earlier on about trying to change the dynamics. I think with time, the way it's going, if we continue on this trajectory, we will do better about persons with disability, because the way to look at it in engagement is that it's not actually favor. The world has gone beyond charity and people begging. No, it's about empowerment. And when you do this, we're doing it for ourselves. You can either be born with disability or you acquire it. You are a healthy person, you have a stroke, you become a person with disability. You better pray that those facilities are available when you become a person with disability.
Yes,
and you better pray that when you're having your kids, it doesn't come out that the child is a person with disability, or you don't have an infection like meningitis and become deaf. So when we're doing these things, we're not really doing it for them, quote and unquote. We're actually doing it for ourselves. I think that should be the message that will help this engagement and the awareness for people to see, is that we don't label it that them, they. No, we're talking about ourselves. So that's the view of our committee. The last subject, if you look at the Electoral Act 2022, it addressed some of the issues in voting. There's also an electoral amendment going on in the House right now, which is supposed to also address the remaining aspects that Jake was talking about. And we're having presentations from the community. The community would like to have set-asides, which is what I think he's trying to say. Because it's very difficult for a PWD to get elected. Face it, it's difficult anyway, the way it's currently set up. So that's going to be a challenge that for that kind of thing to pass, that there should be a set-aside. But there are some low-hanging fruits, like the parties probably should do like APC is doing, which is up to every ward level, there's a disability leader in the ESCO. So we should start by saying that all these 19 parties should have that. And then what he's also saying about appointment is germane, that we need to have more people in government. But I think the ultimate is to have a PWD as representative in the House, because then you don't have to tell that guy what the policies or what the motions are. He's going to be there defending the 35 million. So, and I'm glad that when we're doing the audits and during the inspection, the Speaker insisted that there should be dedicated seats for persons with disability, even though we don't have any now.
Right.
But he's looking at the future.
The way the green chamber is structured.
Yes. The guy cannot even move. He can't go down.
Right. I think that's even one to even comment in terms of this political participation. Why? Because there must be a kind of equalization of opportunity. If I will make a case in the All Progressive Congress, if you look at, they have 3 win. Women win, youth win, and persons with disability. And this win of persons with disability, we have a national leader for persons with disability. And his sole mandate is to liaise between the government political parties and the persons with disability. If there is any legislation or any issue or any gap, he can liaise and bring on board. And we have at the state, 36 states, we have state disabled leaders. We have zonal leaders. If you go to the ward, we have ward leaders up to the unit order. You can see the institutionalization of the APC under their section 12 on their constitution. But the issue of we are able to serve as a persons with disability if we are even given a chance. Mr. President wants to see persons with disability occupy the seat of the Senate, occupy the seat of the National Assembly. But the issue, the challenge is there is so many challenges in terms of the political process. Issue of funding is one of the key issues. Godfatherism, the way how he mentioned in the narration, is one of the issues. But we can make a legislation and make a quota reserved to persons with disability in the State House of Assembly, in the National Assembly, both the Senate and the upper chamber. We can make a legislator to say that certain quota in all the constituency has been reserved to persons with disability. When we have this, I think we are going to emerge. That's the actions why Mr. President said I should liaise with the sub-national. We are not going to concentrate all our activities here in the national. We need to decentralize it to the sub-national. If you look at all these sub-national, they have what we call social protection policy. It is on ground. This social protection policy, how many states they have demonstrated? If the state demonstrated in the line of the United Nations Convention of Rights of Persons with Disability, we were going to achieve more. But this is the gap that we have in the policy implementation. But in terms of political participation, as far we have a legislation, let's make a case so that they can make a quota for persons with disability. It is through this way you can see persons with disability occupy the seat of the Senate, and by doing this, we have achieved inclusion.
At this point, we'll take a short break. When we return, there'll be more on this conversation, and the phone lines will be open. You can get to join in the discussion in the studio. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Right, thanks for staying with us. It's still about inclusion of people with disabilities. This segment will have the phone lines open, means you can join in the conversation. As we always say every Tuesday, if you're calling in tonight, your call gets through, do us a favor and turn down the volume of your TV set so we can have clean, clear audio. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we also encourage you to go straight to the point so others can also get on the platform. And We urge you not to worry too much about the greetings. Just a simple hello would do. And so we'll get started with another of our reports. This one is from Enugu.
It is definitely not common to see disabled politicians in the spotlight, but it is believed that highlighting their experiences will help raise awareness and encourage more representation. People might start to see the value in diverse voices in politics. In Nigeria, having politicians with disabilities can be a powerful step towards inclusivity and ensuring that the need of all citizens are addressed. Their presence can challenge stereotypes and inspire change, promoting policies that support accessibility and equal rights.
National Disability Law of 2018. If this law is fully implemented, persons with disabilities will also have equal rights with others to also do the politics and also have the rights to, enjoy every needed support out there.
Society and government, we need to be inclusive, because you can know my pains more than I do, and you can't be in the same shoe like I am when you don't really understand how I feel about a particular governance policy or an objective to be implemented.
Already, Enugu state government has made a significant strides in promoting the right and inclusion of those living with disabilities by signing the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Bill into law. This legislation aims to protect them from stigma, discrimination, and negative stereotypes and promote their participation in society.
Electoral law that governs the process of election and electioneering in Nigeria should also be tinkered with so that it should be inclusive. Then national policy on inclusion should be adopted so that persons with disabilities can be fully included in the scheme of things.
The type of politics we do in Nigeria, it can equally limit somebody. When you see all this thuggery, violence, assuming a person with a disability or somebody who can't see well is standing where they are doing rally, and all these things starts. Now they start shooting guns, doing all this thuggery. The person can't run.
On policies that needs to be implemented to ensure better representation for individuals with disabilities in politics, and how society can better support them in advancing their goals for representations and securing appointive positions. The PWDs have this to say.
Our advocates that parties will begin to give free form for persons with disabilities. In so doing, they will be encouraged and inspired to, test their popularity in any given election.
You see that what we suffer as persons with disability is not about that disability in quotes. It's about poverty, impoverishment, and then discrimination.
Collaborating with advocacy groups could also amplify the message and reach a wider audience to further create a comprehensive understanding, fulfilling their aspirations in advancing self-interest and appointive positions. In Enugu, Comfort, I am.
All right, here. Back to the studio, and we'll link up with Jake once again. And I like to take a few things here. Discrimination, stigmatization, these are terms we've just heard in the last report. And if I might just recall Dr. Bashir Dawood's words, that even the legislature is a reflection of the larger society. And here we have a matter of attitude to PWDs, where you still find people who would rather put a mile or two between themselves and PWDs, or households where they are so ashamed to reveal that there is a member who's a PWD. And these are all mindsets. How do you begin to change this and ensure that when someone is out there, the discrimination sometimes begins from home, from the community?
sometimes, all the time, the discrimination, I tested discrimination right from my own home, you know, and it cuts across board, you know. So discrimination has become an embedded problem in not just Nigerian society, but across the world, you know. Discrimination comes in twofold. There is overt discrimination and covert discrimination. So you find a situation where some people try to be passive towards you. You know, well, it doesn't matter, you don't exist, I don't, you know. So there's a little bit of a passive discrimination. Well, let him be, but yet within, you know, their mindset is that you don't exist. So discrimination starts first from the mind, where people deliberately and intentionally decided in their mind that they are not going to either associate with you or give you your rightful place or relate with you, you know. And so discrimination starts from home, school, institutions, and it can be even the faith-based institution. There is discrimination in churches. There is discrimination in the mosque, you know. There are discrimination. I mean, I can give you a personal story of a church where I went to and I sat down and someone was asked to sit near me and the person objected and walked away, you know. So you can imagine if there's discrimination in the house of the Lord where you're supposed to be accommodated. Christ, and I'm sure also Muhammad, were very inclusive, you know. And then you have the congregants who are not practicing inclusion, you know. Most of the churches are not accessible, you know. I once spoke to my good friend and mentor, Bishop Kuka. I said, Bishop, that there are a lot of these church leaders who take offering from persons with disability, and yet their churches are not inclusive. They don't have sign language interpreter. They don't have accessibility. They don't cater for the people. So the effort should be geared towards zero discrimination. Discrimination in the workplace, zero discrimination in the workplace, zero discrimination in faith-based institutions, zero discrimination among friends, you know, in social gathering, zero discrimination in the 3 tiers of government. There are government agencies, I wouldn't want to mention them, where a person with disability passed their interview, was successful at all fronts. At the point of engagement where they will give them the letter, they say, oh, sorry, we didn't know you have disability. And they withheld the letter. And my organization and some friends, we fought a particular institution, I won't mention them on air, we fought them to the Senate. And Senate had to compel them to reinstate our community member that they were not willing to give the opportunity, even though he scored 80%. You know, so discrimination starts from the mind, then the house, then the public places, then the faith-based institution, you know, and so on and so forth. And it is evil. It is evil. Let's call it what it is. You know, don't discriminate people that are created by the same God, and for one reason or the other, they suffer one challenges or the other. You know, we are all God's creation, called to fulfill his purpose, you know. And so we cannot make progress in a society that does not include her own. Therefore, discrimination is evil, and we must call it what it is. And anyone who is discriminating should be held accountable, and as a matter of fact, should go to jail. because you are not given opportunity for human capital development. When you discriminate an individual, you have deflected that person's confidence. And many people have suffered depression because they were discriminated.
Okay.
You know, so discrimination suffocates an individual purpose and confidence to march on in life and become what God created that individual to become.
All right.
So my final word is there should be zero discrimination everywhere.
Honorable, changing attitudes, that's not going to be an easy one. And this is where it all begins. As you said, a reflection of the larger society. So the sooner the larger society began to understand the evil of what Jake has talked about, then the better it would be. Okay, but we have a caller now, Abdul, calling from Maitama. Abdul, go ahead with your question or comment.
And the guest in the people with disability are facing so many challenges in Nigeria. Most of the people with ability, either you are a governor or senator or house or representative or president, God will give you a child with disability. And most of them are children with Down syndrome, that is disability. And they don't want to bring their children out to show to the world that it's prefer the children with disability, so that they will give them sense of belonging with the other people with disability.
Okay.
All right. Well,
they're hiding.
It's finished.
Okay, we get the, I mean, we get the whole idea of what you're trying to say.
I think that the way to look at this is we have to look at it two ways. You know, we said that there's a legislation, whatever it is, there's an act. And the act is about protection of the rights of the PWD. The first section of that act is that it's unlawful to discriminate against a person with disability, either as an individual or as a corporation. And there are sanctions for that. So I think it's important for the PWD community to understand that that instrument is there and that help is there. That's on one side. The other side is that of awareness, which will address what you said earlier on. How do you correct something that's so ingrained and that is cultural? It even gets worse. We've had complaints of the women that are on wheelchair and that who went for delivery. And the staff in the hospital are telling them that you that have disability, how come you're pregnant? They didn't even take into consideration that maybe the woman was already married before she developed the disability. So that's how deep it is. So it's only awareness with the kind of things we're doing today that is going to go a long way to change that. Also, seeing PWDs in positions we've seen that too. Communities to realize that this is not something they're just going to hide in the closet. There are folks that are on wheelchair, like this gentleman we have here, and many more, lawyers, doctors, and all that, they have disability. So that kind of awareness is going to make the populace as a whole to see that disability is not something that is a hindrance. Thank you for that.
All right, we'll come to you. Let's just take this call. Richard from Lafia. Hello, Richard.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hello,
Red, go ahead, Richard.
Okay, my question is this.
We're waiting for the question.
The network.
Oh dear. I think perhaps the line has
clogged.
Yeah, well. Okay. Richard, maybe you just have to call back. Right.
I think, Mr. Cyril, we're in a country that we are guided by law, and we have what is called Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Act, which is Section 1 is talking about. If you discriminate person with disability, there is a fine. It's high time our people to start going to court. Why? Because nobody has immune to become disabled. Disability can happen to anybody. There is need to declare a zero disability, zero discrimination in this country. Why? Because if you look at, in my case, let me tell you, I'm not like that before. I involved in a ghastly motor accident for the past 17 years that compiled me in a wheelchair. And some of the attitudinal, what I heard is discrimination in my life. If you discriminate me, I will feel bad. And discrimination is become subject of the day everywhere in this country. If you go to board a plight, you will be denied access. And you will not have a kind of inherent dignity to board a plane in an equal basis with other. No any provision for other facility. If you violate persons with disability or deny him access for a building, you discriminate it. Not you discriminate me on the basis of my wheelchair or anything. Some people there will see my wheelchair as a luggage, not as a mobility. Is also a discrimination. So when you discriminate person with disability, we have a law that is guiding us. What law say? Just go to court. If our people start going to court, then it will serve as a yardstick to others.
Umar is calling in from Taraba. Hello, Umar, are you there?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon. Well, let me say good evening. Yes, sir. Yes, I am a person with disability, also a lawyer.
Okay, you see.
Yes, I'm working with Federal University of Okari. I really enjoy this discussion. And I'm praying how I wish that I will be invited one day to be among the discussants.
Certainly, Umar. Nothing says you can't be a discussant on this. In fact, you already are a discussant. You're calling in, and yes. And
unfortunately, I wish to have the contact of our SD. That's my Honorable Isa.
Inshallah.
Okay.
Yes. I wish to have his contact so that we can start communicating.
Okay, inshallah, you'll get it.
All right. Okay, that's fantastic. Honorable Isa is right here.
Yes, sir.
He will know how to fix that. I do believe that your contact is with the.
I would appreciate to have his contact.
Okay.
Okay, can you take the contact?
Okay.
Can you take the contact?
Okay, sir.
080.
Okay, let me put it.
080.
Okay, I put it, sir.
36.
Yes.
26.
I put it, sir.
44.
Yes.
60. I will repeat it again. 080 36 26 44 60.
Yes. 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 Yes, sir.
Good.
I'm very grateful, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Umar from Taraba.